Thanks for tuning in, guys. You're listening to Ace Comicals. I'm Greg Driver. I'm joined by Rahul Jani and Leon Everett. Let's go! Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it may be where you're listening. Welcome to Ace Comicals number 68. And I am joined by both of my co-hosts this week. I have Ray.
Hello, people.
And Leon.
Hey, guys.
And I think we should open in with the Eisner Awards, shouldn't we? I think that's what we should do. We should talk about the fact that the Eisners happened at SDCC this year. That's San Diego Comic-Con. Yeah, that was the weekend of the 18th and 21st of July, wasn't it? And yeah, I'm really not surprised at some of the things here that won. A lot of them I actually have in my long boxes, so that makes me feel good.
Tastemaker.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So best short story was The Talk of the Saints, which was Tom King and Jason Farbuk, and that was in the Swamp Thing Winter Special, which I remember being really hyped for. And it is a really good story. Best single issue one shot was Chip Zdarsky and the Spectacular Spider-Man 310, which is a fantastic little issue. It's like really, really heartfelt and like really gets to the heart of like what it means to be the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, I think, which I really liked. No surprises that Best Limited Series went to Mr. Miracle. Are you surprised about that? Because I'm fucking not. Any picks for you guys?
Best Continuing Series, Giant Days, which I've been standing since day one, I think. And then also best cover artist, I believe, was Jen Bartel. I'm trying to find it on the
Jen Bartel.
Yeah, for Blackbird and Submerged. And I think I remember going on about how much I loved the cover for Submerged at the time. So yeah, those are my tastemaker picks.
Cool. Anything there for you, Leon?
Going back over some of the other ones, it's nice to see Tom King do the back-to-back, Mitch Gerard doing the back-to-back, Mr. Miracle doing the back-to-back. Like Rahul said, Jen Bartel, I love everything she does. I'm really happy to see Matt Wilson get best colouring. He's like one of the best right now, so it's nice to see him be acknowledged. Another thing that was really nice, panel by panel, edited by Hassan Osmani. I always mess up his second name.
Oh yeah, Panel X Panel. Yeah.
But yeah, best comics related periodical journalism. It was a tie between them and Back Issue, which I've heard good things about as well.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I mean, Panel X Panel got nominated before. And now it's actually picked up that well-deserved Eisner, I think, because Panel X Panel is great. I have actually bought a few of them.
But you know what changed in between this year and last year?
What, I submitted something?
Yeah, Greg and the Ace Comicals touch. It's like, feature us, you're going to win an Eisner. Just saying.
It was one paragraph about Ice Cream Man, and it just,
do we have any evidence to the contrary? No.
Yeah, it made all the difference, that one paragraph for the entire year.
Yeah, my gibberish about Ice Cream Man.
But, you're the tastemaker.
No, somehow I do not think that is the reason that won an Eisner, but there we go. Under best colouring, Matt Wilson, Black Cloud. I've got a few issues of that in my long boxes as well. That was pretty cool, I remember.
Paper Girls as well.
Yeah,
spectacular colouring in that book.
Mitch Gerards and Tom King cleaned up. Completely cleaned up.
Yeah, because the Vision hardcover won Best Graphic Album reprint, so King and Hernandez, Walter and Walsh winning.
It's mad that Tom King got nominated for Batman, because it was Best Writer for Batman, Mr. Miracle, Heroes in Crisis and Swamp Thing, Winter Special. But, it's mad that he got nominated for Batman when he's getting pulled off Batman. It's like...
But it's about, the time that it covers, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because it's not calendar.
But I will continue to say this. I have this argument once a week. I get told that Batman, has dropped in sales, and it was outselling Spider-Man, but now it's not. And it's this is at my LCS, and Batman has really dropped off in sales, and I'm like, but why? Because Tom King's Batman run is absolutely fantastic, and there is absolutely no reason why it should be dropping off in sales, and I don't understand what people don't like about it. I don't get it. And like, it's great. It's a really great examination of Batman, and like Tom King does this really cool thing with broken characters.
This is what happens a lot, where like critics and say the industry often can sometimes have. I mean, all of them are small pools that you're talking about anyway. But like, can it sometimes have a diversion sort of wave of taste? If you look at the Oscars every year, most of the biggest contenders are some of the smaller box office movies of the year. Same with like the Emmys. A lot of the top shows are things that come on premium cable, which is like 1 to 2 million people watching each week. So I think you can have a bit of a disconnect there, but also I think that and I'd even count myself as one of these people. I think a lot of things get discovered after their time.
I know, it's just such a shame, because it's going to result in his run ending prematurely.
But his run lives on in a different way, doesn't it?
I guess, yeah. But still,
you'll have to see what happens.
Still. But
you can beat your chest and say you're right.
Yep. I'm right. Listen to me. Please. I need listeners. No, yeah, it's just mental, and I will just never be able to I mean, I know what you're saying, Leon. I fully understand what you're saying, but I'll just never be able to wrap my head around it, because it is a really, really good run, and he really does get under the skin of Batman, under like the cowl, if you will, and actually in a way that other writers haven't with Batman. Because I mean, lots of writers do these, they do these examinations of Batman's psyche and whatever, but no one has done it like Tom King has done it through his run on Batman. And yeah, it's impressive. And more people need to recognise that. But yeah, well, he's got an Eisner, but yeah,
multiple.
Why put it back on your pull list? Save the Tom King run.
This might be a blessing in disguise, because you don't know that the following run, is it Batman and Catwoman? It's called.
He's gonna get to do the Batman Catwoman thing.
Yeah, that might end up being like mind blowing, and being freed of the shackles of being the main Batman book might get to push some things and go further into his story than maybe he would have been allowed, having been tied to the main book. So could be a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, so it will be Batman Catwoman #1, yeah. Beginning in January 20... I'm looking at the DC website now. So beginning in January 2020, DC's ongoing Batman comic book, currently shipping twice monthly, will return to a monthly schedule, allowing DC to incorporate the monthly Batman title into the larger DC universe and continuity. Batman will ship alongside a new 12-issue Batman Catwoman series by Tom King and Clay Mann, while Bat Family titles, Deck Comics, Catwoman, Nightwing, Batgirl, others will continue into 2020 with no immediate changes to their shipping schedules. So there we go. And City of Bane, which started with Batman 75, July 17th, is going to be like, I think, the final arc. It'll run 11 issues, and that will conclude in December 2019 with Batman 85, and that'll be the final arc, and it's sad.
Probably get him nominated again.
I'm sad.
I've got a final shout for me for the Eisners.
Yeah.
So it's a book that I haven't read yet. But best adaptation from another medium, Frankenstein, that is part of the Junji Ito story collection, that one. So I'm always, as I mentioned on the cast many times, a big fan of Ito's work, and I'm looking forward to giving that a read.
Yeah, man. So like, the other big news that came out of SDCC was the MCU Phase 4 announcements. There was an announcement for a bunch of movie titles and a bunch of TV series that we're going to be getting as part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Phase 4 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And it starts with Black Widow getting a solo movie in 2020, which I think it's going to be kind of cool. And isn't this going to explain, like, I mean, this is like a long time coming as well, because this is something that should have happened like forever ago. But isn't this something that's going to explain like the Budapest thing?
The thing is, we don't know 100% for certain, but you know they're going to do that. So the movie is not a true prequel because it's set after Civil War. But you know there's going to be flashbacks and all types of things.
Because some of it is filmed in Budapest.
Yeah, well, I mean, we know they're going to do it, but I don't think that's the basis of the movie.
Yes,
I think it's going to be Scarlett Johansson versus Florence Pugh and all types of government shenanigans.
David Harbour's in it as well.
Yeah, it's got a pretty decent cast and a good director as well with Kate Shortland. And this is the thing that part of this announcement is things that we knew, but them confirming it, and then some stuff was like wholly first announced stuff. So it was nice to get some concrete information on this movie that they were semi-pretending wasn't happening.
And Taskmaster's going to be in there as well.
Yeah, the main foe.
I think the main foe, will be Taskmaster, which will be cool, because Taskmaster is basically like all of the Avengers rolled into one. Ray, you would have experienced Taskmaster when you played the Spider-Man PS4 game.
I think that's my only exposure to Taskmaster. I'm not really sure what his general shtick is apart from that.
He basically just learns everyone else's fighting styles and abilities. And
he was good in Marvel vs. Capcom 3.
Yeah.
I remember.
He has everyone else's gimmick, that's his thing.
Right, okay.
He learns, he can study and he can learn everyone else's fighting abilities, and then he uses that to beat people at their own game, basically. And other Marvel Phase 4 stuff. You got Thor Love and Thunder, which looks amazing, or sounds amazing. Doctor Strange, The Multiverse of Madness, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings.
Yeah, Doctor Strange is the one that caught my eye, because apparently they're going to dive more into like modern day horror with mysticism, and that sounds really cool. Yeah.
The Eternals is one that caught my eye that sounds pretty awesome, because that's digging deep into some like weird Marvel stuff.
Yeah, this now, I'd say previously it was Guardians. I think that this now is the biggest risk that Marvel are taking, so I'm really interested to see what happens.
Yeah. So it's going to be having the Eternals, the Deviants, the Humans, and the Celestials. So this is Marvel Universe ancient history, because this happens like on the Marvel timeline. The Eternals begins a long time ago, like an eternity ago. Isn't this what
this game?
Yeah.
So this come before he went to DC.
I think that's what it is. Yeah, and then when he went to DC, he just like went wacky completely, made the New Gods. We're talking about Jack Kirby, by the way. I'm just going to find out now. I'm pretty sure it came before he went to DC. We're just going to fact check myself. Yeah, created by Jack Kirby. Their first appearance in the Eternals, July 1976. So no, this would have been
when he came back.
Yeah, when he came back. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Kirby left Marvel Comics to work at DC, where he began the saga of the New Gods. Yes, so it's after.
I didn't want to be wrong in front of the comics guru.
Yeah, it's after. It's after. I was wrong. I thought it was before, but it's after.
But it's going to be interesting, because it as me, like I've got like, I don't know, an intermediate comic book knowledge of the big two, where I'd say you have like an expert knowledge of them. But even for me,
I don't know if I use that word. That's a strong word.
I've never read a single page of an Eternals comic.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff. It's Jack Kirby at his finest.
So it's exciting. It's got a really good cast, headed up by Angelina Jolie. It's got meant to be a really good director. I haven't seen The Rider yet, but that was down as one of the best movies of last year, and they somehow got the director of that to do a Marvel movie, which is amazing.
Yeah, I'm I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully it comes out really good because, like, you know, a nice slice of Jack Kirby on the big screen like that would be cool.
Yeah. And that was Chloe Zhao.
Yeah.
They've got doing that. So it's going to be interesting. 2020 is only two Marvel movies that year, and both are directed by women.
Yeah, did people not say that was going to be also, you know, because it's like, people were saying that 2020 was going to be like the lowest grossing year for Marvel. Like it's not saying a lot, but
I think it's a riskier year because they're launching not big sort of because one is focused on a character who like it's not going to be as bombastic like lasers in the air type thing. It seems more concentrated as like a espionage superhero-y action film, and then this thing is like the Eternals is a completely unknown quantity, so it's a big risky year for them, but like it's cool because they don't need these movies to gross $1 billion. They just need to in the case of Black Widow, they just need to make a good movie. And in the case of this, they need to just make a good movie, but also set up like a new IP, basically. So I think it's quite a refreshing year because it's a year where Marvel and Disney can sort of flex. Because this year, all three of the movies they've made have done over $1 billion. One of those movies is the highest grossing movie of all time. So I like that they can have the freedom. Like, if they're going to be our corporate overlords, they can at least do something interesting with that money.
Indeed. And it's like Marvel have preempted and beaten DC to the punch, because if the Eternals is out next year, then, like, I mean, what was the slated date for New Gods? Remind me.
There is none, but I can't see it coming earlier than 2021. Exactly.
So, like, it's like Marvel have, like, used Cerebro and got into DC's head.
Well, that's why it's kind of brutal, because this will come out before.
Yeah.
This is out November next year, Eternals. Yeah. But, like, by the time New Gods comes out, it'll be like, oh, that's like Eternals, and New Gods came first.
Yeah, they will be, like, thematically similar as well as stories, because that's kind of what they were in the first place. Like, and, you know, they kind of have that shared history of coming from the same mind and being almost embedded in the same kind of ideas, but not but not quite kind of thing. Like, thematically similar, but that's as far as it goes. And yeah, it is going to be pretty brutal for DC, because I think they were thinking, oh look, we'll do this New Gods movie, we'll do something really wild and different. Marvel have already done it, like the old South Park thing. Simpsons did it, you know. But yeah, we'll see.
I think it's going to be interesting regardless.
Yeah. So. Yeah, it is. I mean, I'm still interested in New Gods, mainly because, like,
I'm hyped for New Gods.
Tom King's on it. I mean, you know,
and Ava DuVernay. So
yeah, it's going to be good.
That's a dream team if you can get one.
Yeah. So I think that wraps us up for Marvel Phase 4 talk, unless anyone's got anything else they want to draw our attention to. Like, what about the TV series, actually? Let's talk, let's just mention a couple of those, because you've got The Falcon and the Winter Soldier coming next year. Is that going to be on Disney Plus? Yes,
all of these are Disney Plus shows. And all of these are true canon in the MCU, whereas the Marvel stuff was never really.
What If won't be true canon?
Well, you know what I mean.
The whole point of What If is that it takes canon,
but what if
scrunches it up.
What If it's voiced by all the people who played their roles in the movies, though?
Yeah, but
which is really cool.
Yeah, but it What If, the whole point of What If is that it sets fire to canon.
Well, no, it uses like the canon that led up to the beginning of each story. It just goes its own weird way.
It goes in its own branching direction. I like the. I mean. Supposedly the first episode of What If will be to do with the super soldier serum, won't it? Yeah, so it'd be what if Peggy Carter had taken the super soldier serum instead of Steve Rogers. And yeah, I mean, Ray, have you got anything to add to that? Anything to add to any of that for the TV series that are coming?
No, not really. I mean, I don't think I've paid as much attention to this as you guys have, which is why I've been a bit quiet and just listening into it. I have no idea what any of like Eternals or any of this is. I didn't realize that What If was a cartoon, so that's kind of cool. I'm just going to wait and see as it comes out, I think.
I didn't know it was going to be... I didn't know it was going to be a TV series until 5 minutes before we hit the record button on this cast. So I thought it was going to be a movie. But yeah, if they're going the TV series route, then that'll be cool because they can do this kind of like Twilight Zone-y type thing, which will be nice. And I guess that wraps us up for the kind of like newsy portion now. Then, so I guess
I'll just add the last thing that was really cool is that at the end they brought out Mahershala Ali, and then announced that he was going to be Blade. So
is Blade a TV show as well?
No, that's going to be a film, but it's not phased at the moment. So we assume it's in phase 5 because phase 4 looks to only be 2 years, which is the shortest phase so far. So it'll be interesting. Also, there's no like Avengers movie tying this all together, which I really like. So yeah, I think like we said before, they're flexing a bit, and it will be interesting to see what we get.
I feel weird about the fact that they're already thinking about phase 5. I mean, you know, they've already got it. I mean, I know that like I'm being, I don't know, because I know like if I put my thinking man's hat on, I know that they're probably already up to phase 7 with this stuff. Like they've got like a plan that far ahead because that's what they'd have to do, right? But like it's that whole thing where, because you know that you think that they're thinking that far ahead already kind of thing, and you know, it's just, I don't know.
At the end of the day,
I'm always a bit wary of that when they start announcing things that are so far off in the future.
But that's why they've only announced what's coming up soon, because like none of the sequels to the big films like Black Panther, Captain Marvel, and we haven't got dates on that. We haven't got any dates on Fantastic Four or X-Men now that Fox has been bought by Disney. But we know that stuff's coming. And that, come on, between those things that I just said, that's enough for 2 phases. Yeah. So, I don't think it's that bad, because you've got to remember back in, what was it, 2013, 2014, they did the thing at Comic-Con or D23 or whatever it was, where they announced movies going all the way up to 2019, which we just did. So, and that was that not annoying, but that was kind of like, oh my god, this is the outlook, isn't it? And I mean, we got through that. So I think what we got to remember though is that at the end of the day, what dictates this is, yes, Disney will control, but also audiences, and audiences could go the opposite direction at any time, and that will shake everything up. So we'll see what happens. Yeah.
So drawing a line under the newsy portion with the SDCC stuff, I'm going to move right onto the comics, and I'm going to pull the first one off my stack, which is something that I was hype about, something that I read a preview of and talked a little bit about on previous episodes. And that is Batman Curse of the White Knight, which is the return of the whole Batman White Knight thing, which Sean Murphy is the name associated with this. So if I read the credits for this one, it is Batman Curse of the White Knight, and it is Sean Murphy is the script, the art, and the covers, and we have Matt Hollingsworth on colours and cover colours, and world design for letters. So it's mainly Sean Murphy. It's mainly the Sean Murphy show again. And yeah, it's like as pretty, if not more pretty, as his previous work. It's just a gorgeous, gorgeous book to look at. Like, I enjoy his character design so much. Like, the way he does Batman, like giving Batman the collar on the cape. Like, reminiscent of, I don't know, like pulp hero type thing, you know, with like the collar. Like that kind of like pulp hero old school look with the cape, which I really like.
Like a gumshoe type.
Yeah, yeah. And like then you've got like all the designs for some of the Bat family, like they look like racing drivers and stuff, which is kind of cool. Like, they all have that kind of aesthetic about them. Like, Barbara, for example, in the Batgirl get-up she's got on, she looks like a racing car driver, like literally like she's wearing racing leathers or something, which I really like. And I think, it's just like his design for the Joker as well, wearing the Batman t-shirt with the suspenders, like looking a little bit punk. I quite like that. And then like just the whole thing is just wonderful. So with this one, it is an interesting look into the history of Gotham City. So that's what we're getting with this arc. Without spoiling it too much, it's like goes right back to the founding of Gotham. And again, Batman and the Waynes appear to have skeletons in their closet that go sort of like way back to the beginnings of Gotham itself, which it's that for me is kind of cool, because I like this stuff that plays with history sometimes. I quite like that. And I really like Sean Murphy's kind of alternative vision for Batman. I think it's a cool look for Gotham, and for he's got some really nice ideas here with what he does with some of the characters and some of the some like well-established parts of Gotham, and some things that are kind of like set in stone elsewhere in Batman comics. Like what he does with them is really cool. It's just really refreshing as usual. And his vision of Gotham is just, it's just refreshing, and it's different, and it's as refreshing as its predecessor, The White Knight. So Curse of the White Knight is just as good so far. So right back to the founding of Gotham, this time revolving around Azrael. So there's some Azrael stuff, and what he does with Azrael in this is kind of cool, and I'm going to leave that for you guys to find out when you read this comic. I don't want to talk too much about that, because I really don't want to get into spoilers too much on this. And I'm looking at my notes, and I'm trying to talk around the big glaring spoilers in my notes, and it's really difficult, because I really want you guys to go out and read this and enjoy it like I've enjoyed it as an alternative look at Batman. Especially you, Leon, knowing that you've read the first White Knight series. So, yeah, I mean, once again, it's just on point, and his design for Joker and the Batman, and the interplay between Joker and the Batman, and, you know, with Batman being the bad guy again, almost. Like, another story where the Waynes are going to end up being... Well, from the looks of it, the Waynes are painted as the villains of the piece.
Because you're saying, like, does it follow on, like, thematically as much as it seems to follow in its type of ideas and look?
Yes, it does. It's a direct sequel to the ending of Batman, the White Knight. But it's also a difference too. So you could read this independently of the other one. And it sets up stuff, or it uses stuff that happened in the first limited series to set things up in this, but it's things that are kind of explained within the first few pages anyway. So you could read this without having read the first book and still enjoy it, but then you can go back and read the first ones afterwards and enjoy this even more. Yeah, so you could in theory read them independently of each other, but it is a direct sequel for all intents and purposes. Yes, Leon, to answer your question.
That's cool.
Yeah. And yeah, in much the same way that you had the Dark Knight Returns and then the second book on from there, that Frank Miller did.
Strikes Again, or
that's
Strikes
it,
Back.
Yeah, Dark Knight Strikes Back, yeah. Was it Strikes Back? God, my comics knowledge is really off today. Help me, Leon. Was it Strikes Back? I think it was Strikes Back, wasn't it?
Yeah, because you had Strikes Back, and then wasn't it Strikes Back Again? You had like the third one.
There was a third one. I know. There's like Dark Knight 3, The Master Race.
Yeah, maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
That's the third one.
I'm thinking that they split the books.
You're not
up
thinking
again.
like The Dark Knight Strikes Back and then Dark Knight Return of the Jedi? Is that not where you're going with this? Yeah, things that I should know that I don't know should be the theme of this podcast. But yeah, definitely. We'll draw a line under that. But yeah, this is a really good book, and I fully recommend it. The art is on point again. You know, like Sean Murphy does a wonderful job here. Like the designs for the historical portion of this as well. Like historical Wayne basically looks like Zorro. Ish. He has a whip and a sword. He could be a Belmont, actually. He's got an earring, a whip, and a sword. He could so be a Belmont. But yeah, I really like this. And you'll know. Actually, I do kind of, because there's like mention of vampires in these pages. So there's mentions of vampirism, and I do kind of equate. Like I can see like Wayne the Vampire Hunter, like this with the whip and the sword. Is this very vampire hunter kind of like air about him? And yeah, it's great. It's great.
How many is that meant to be running for? Do you know? Is it limited as well?
It will be, yes. It will be limited.
Awesome. My favourite type.
Exactly. And yeah, so that's Batman Curse of the White Knight book 1. And it's on DC Black Label. Surprising no one. And yeah, it's really good. And I think the previous one probably should have been like... I think if DC Black Label existed when the previous White Knight run was out, then that would have been Black Label as well. But yeah, it's definitely for more mature readers for sure. But yeah, it's great. And
for anyone who is threatening to unsubscribe, guys, we're tired. We know it's the Dark Knight Strikes Again. Leave us alone.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. No, this is a jumble of a podcast. I'm ready to give up comics and just pile them all into the middle of my attic and just set fire to the whole thing for the amount of mistakes I've made today. Getting Jack Kirby's career backwards, forgetting the name of Batman comics, Jesus. So after Curse of the White Knight, where were we going with this? We're going to House of X, so we could make more mistakes about historical comics.
yeah. What's not complicated about the X-Men?
Oh my gosh, give me a break. So yeah, there's a lot to unpack here with this one. So this is House of X number 1, which is something we have been looking forward to again in the run-up. Supposedly a new genesis for the X-Men, something that is going to set up the next decade of X-Men comics is how people have talked about it. And we now have it right in front of us. Or at least I do. I don't know, did you buy it digitally, Leon?
Yeah, digital.
Yeah, so I have a hard copy, a solid copy, and it's quite a heavy book, actually. It's quite a hefty comic. There's a lot in here. And there's a lot of text in here.
It was a bargain on Comixology, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Considering how big it is.
It's got some fancy text pages too.
Yeah.
Fancy graphic design. Like I'm looking at the computer screen.
What the hell is this, Greg?
This is like basically setting up a whole new fresh start for the X-Men. This is a hopping on point for the X-Men. And the book opens and we are on the island of Krakoa, which is a fitting place for a new genesis for the X-Men to start. Because that's what happens in Giant Size X-Men in 1975. Guess what? They're on Krakoa. Because at that time, Krakoa is feeding off them. Krakoa is a sentient mutant island that was created by nuclear testing in the South Pacific. And in this, Krakoa is the new home for the mutants, and the mutants seem to be living harmoniously with the ecosystem on Krakoa, which functions as a kind of a hive mind. And all of this is a nod to the 1975 Giant Size X-Men, I feel, in the fact that it's like a new genesis for the X-Men, as that was. Actually, you two have read Grand Design, so you will know the events of that Giant Size X-Men comic, because it is in the beginning of the second portion of Grand Design, the second 2 books. And yeah, it's just an interesting new era for the X-Men. The cover even is a play on the Giant Size X-Men thing, because it's them coming out of the portal from Krakoa. But if you remember the Giant Size X-Men cover, it's like them busting through the page, the new team. And I'm seeing rather a lot of this lately. Rather a lot of this cover with, rather a lot of this giant size thing going on here, like with giant size ecstatics, and then this with the cover and everything, and it's just, what are you doing to me, man? What are you trying to do? It's like holding a mirror up into another mirror with like.
Well, this is what happens now.
But it's great. It's great. Yeah. I mean, I'm not complaining. I'm just saying I'm seeing rather a lot of it, and it's cool.
But I think as a millennial, you're now being catered to. So lap it up while you can.
Yeah, so the story is centered around this island of Krakoa, which is a sentient mutant ecosystem that the mutants have decided to establish their own nation there with their own language and their own almost like they basically to define themselves as a separate nation. And it's quite cool because the book seems to be like a tour of Krakoa and kind of a quick introduction to who's who on the island and whose role is what and what's happening and how it's happening, and how like maybe there's like a little bit of a sinister undertone to it all.
A little bit.
Like the mutants are holding the world to ransom with their miracle drugs. And that's about as much of that as I'm going to go into. It's kind of like it's interesting in playing off the X-Men this way, because all the time we've known that the X-Men are the good guys and we've always sympathized with the mutant cause and everything else, but this is Homo Superior saying that they are Homo Superior in this book, right? And establishing their own nation, which is like scarily more advanced than the rest of the world. And it seems to be like it's almost like a fight for survival. Like they're fighting for their survival, coming out of the persecution and everything else that the mutants have endured throughout their history in the comics. And then the humans are now going to be fighting for their survival because the mutants are coming back with a vengeance. And in all honesty, they are what are going to they are going to replace humans, because that's what they are. They're the next step in evolution. And
let's just say there's a little bit of tension.
Let's just say there's a little bit of tension there, and that the humans are starting to think about making a run for it, as in going into space and setting shit up.
Like, there's a lot of really good setup in this. So,
yeah, it is a really good setup issue, isn't it? That's what I was trying to get at.
Yeah, because, like, full disclosure, I haven't finished the issue yet. I'm like, I'll say 60% of the way through it.
Yeah.
But like, there's some really good statements of feelings and ideologies, but not in a very on-the-nose way. Maybe in some elements, but it all felt quite natural and realistic to a degree, because there's a moment early on, like probably a fifth of the way through, where I don't even want to say who the characters are. I'll say Cyclops. Cyclops bumps into some heroes, some other Marvel heroes in New York. You can guess who it wants to be, or read the book.
There's four of them, right? Four of them. One of them's on fire. Yeah, am I right? Am I getting close?
I think you're way off base. But one of them asks, like what's going on with all this? They're calling it the amnesty and all the different things that are being proposed with the mutants setting up their world, because it's basically Xavier telling everyone, okay, we're a new country. This is what we've got. If you recognize us, we'll give you these awesome drugs that will extend life for 5 years, neutralize a bunch of brain illnesses and mental diseases. Like it's all very like good stuff. in there. But all of it feels like an ultimatum, like a separation, especially with them having their own home country. It creates this weird sort of dynamic, and even between old friends. And like, there's a great panel where I'd say one of the more stormy members of the group are Cyclops. Like, what's the deal with all of this? And Cyclops just hits her back with this line where he's like, my family has spent our entire lives being hunted and hated. The world has told me that I was less when I knew I was more. Did you honestly think we were going to sit around forever and just take it? And it like just sets up there where it's they're not asking for anything. Like Magneto also says this earlier in the book when he's talking to some diplomats, and it's like we could take the world type thing, but all we're doing is we just want sovereignty of this island. We just want this piece of the pie.
We just want you to recognise us as our own nation, and we will leave you alone.
And like when you attack it from that end, it just says like, oh, this doesn't seem too bad. But then it has so many shades of various different like sci-fi elements. One that comes to mind for some reason for me is the remake, the 2009 remake of the series V. This is an ABC show, and in the remake, I mean, the idea of V is that aliens come to Earth, and we don't know they're aliens, but they're actually lizards underneath their skin, and they're evil. In the remake, they came as benevolent people, and the leader of the group was played by Morena Baccarin, and like they offer all these things, like they've got these medical equipments that just kills all cancers, kills any disease, and they're all offering out for free. And obviously people are like rarely suspicious, but like they show no ill intentions publicly, while in the background like various weird things are happening. And there's a great line where Morena Bracken's character is speaking to one of her lieutenants, and it says like, what is the purpose of, why are we helping these people, blah blah, and she says that we'll give them all this stuff so that they'll become dependent on it, and just as they need it the most, we'll switch it off. And you kind of get elements or shades of that from this book. Like, there's definitely something sinister going on with this, and I'm only 60% of the way through this book.
Yeah,
but there's definitely some shady elements, and I don't like. Part of me would worry if it was in different hands. That what you're going to make the mutants, who we've spoken about endlessly on various different casts, and I mean everyone and their mum has spoken about what they stood for, what they were the metaphor, and it kind of feels like, oh, what? You're going to make them like the secret bad guys? But I think it's going to be a lot more complicated than that.
It is, yeah, it is.
So I think I'm interested to see where it goes.
I think putting Magneto in charge of international relations is a terrible, terrible, terrible mistake. Eric's not good at stuff like that. It's not his strong suit. He's a little bit opinionated and a little bit gung-ho. Damn it, Charles.
What's good about it is that it does feel like a really good sort of launching pad for these ideas, and I'll probably keep up with this limited run, which is setting things up. If it's stupidly hooked me, then I'll probably read the other book, but I'm not converting to when it becomes 6 different series, outrunning series. You know me, I don't have the stamina for that. But I will read at least this collected run, and I probably will read. Is it Dawn of X or Powers of X?
It is Powers of X.
I might read Powers of X
because this and Powers of X intertwine.
Yeah,
like a double helix.
So if when I finish this, because I'll stick with this till the end, because it's only like 5 or 6, isn't it? Once I've done that, if it's hooked me enough, I'll read Powers. And then it's leading to Dawn, and then Dawn leads to six different titles running. So I'm not going all that way, but I do like the setup, and it feels in a good place as a jumping on point for some of this stuff because it's a fresh start. But I don't have to worry about I'm going to be reading 200 issues of this. I like to dip in when the tide has changed and get an idea of what the new status quo is.
I think I'm excited about the fact that ground floor for X-Men comics again, and this time it's going to be done nicely from the look of things from the outset. It's going to be something I can actually follow because I've not been able to read X-Men. I like being able to go into the shop and read X-Men. I like being able to go to the shop and buy a single issue of X-Men and read X-Men. And it's been a long time since I've actually been able to do that because I've just not got on with anything that's come out, and then all of a sudden there's this, and it's setting something up that seems really interesting. The comic itself is really well put together. There's some really nice scenes in here. The artwork's gorgeous. There's some these little plain text pages that are really nicely designed, like looking at some sort of computer interface that kind of explain things that are happening in the comic as well. They give you kind of little bits of context and everything, which is really cool.
Maps, I love maps.
Yeah, maps are great.
Always put a map in your comic.
Yeah, and it's just so nicely put together, and
I like
such an exciting, fresh thing. I think.
Yeah, I've seen some not controversy, but I've seen some umming and ahhing. But I like the use of the classic costumes in there.
I do, yeah.
There's something quite nice about.
I like seeing Marvel Girl as Marvel Girl.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen that, and Wolverine in the brown costume. It's I don't know. It's I think I haven't kept up with the books in the last couple of years, but I know they've been doing a lot of different designs, and there's something quite nice about, and it feels intentional. In the verse, intentional that they use in these classic costumes, and I think that's going to play into whatever the reveal of the story is.
My favourite page is the final page of the book, so I can't talk about that. Because it's just got this great line to finish the book on as well, which, damn it, can't talk about it because of spoilers, so you guys got to read it, but it's such a well put together page, and everything about it just kind of just works to give this kind of this idea of this new dawn, throughout the book as well. You're getting sunrises in the background of pages and things like that, and it's just everything seems to be about the dawn, about a new dawn. Everything feels new and feels like it's waking up for the first time. And
then flowers are a very big
flowers opening and things like that, and it's just great how things blossoming, and it's just, everything works to give the idea of this new dawn and this new opening, this creation. And one of my other favourite parts is you have two characters interfacing with the island, talking to the island to checking people out, letting them on and off the island, basically.
Yeah,
just watching what's going on. And there's this one panel that just looks really, really eldritch, but at the same time, they're not as scared of it as they should be, and it's dude, you should be that's just really, really sinister. It's just this wall with cracks in it, and there's just loads of eyes lining these cracks, and the pink living flesh in between the eyes. And Cypher is placing his hand on the wall, and he is comprehending what Krakoa is saying, because Krakoa is speaking its own language, and it's just it feels like Krakoa is the one pulling the strings when you see that one panel. That one panel there it's almost like Krakoa has absorbed the mutants into its kind of hive mind ecosystem, and Krakoa is the one pulling the strings. And Krakoa is intent on taking over the Earth.
Who could say?
That's the impression I get just from that one panel. Like, that's how it feels to me, like the sinister air that this gives off. But yeah, that is House of X #1. And list of credits for this one. We have Jonathan Hickman writing. Pepe Larraz is the artist. Marta Gracia is the colour artist. VC's Clayton Cowles on letters, and Tom Muller on the design. And there is some gorgeous design in this book. Like, it just oozes quality. But then again, it's a AAA comic, so what else are you going to expect, right?
It does feel like it's got all the resources that it needs.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But then again, I also got the idea, like, in the writing of it and in what it was setting up, it felt like I was reading something Image, something creator-owned. Even though I know I'm reading an X-Men book. Which I thought was really cool. Like, it had just a tint of that about it. And that, for me, is something else that sold it. It sold its freshness as well. The fact that it felt ever so slightly creator-owned. I don't know about you, Leon. I don't know if you got that from it.
Not yet, but I'll have to check back in with you once I've finished. It definitely has a different feel from other superhero comics that I read. And I think I always usually get that anyway with the X-Men, unless they're going out on missions saving stuff, because I always think of that. I don't even think of the X-Men as superheroes, really, and that's why it's always been one of my favourites in the Marvel stable.
Yeah, but normally the X-Men comics have this very X-Men feel about them, like feel very much like X-Men comics, whereas this doesn't. This is something more. Like, for me anyway, in reference to other X-Men books I've read. Let's move on to another future, or something that should be happening right now as we're speaking, actually. Blade Runner 2019. Is that the idea of this, Ray? Something that should be going on right now as we're talking? Should we be replicants? Is that what you're trying to tell us?
I don't think so. I kind of just ignored the title and the fact that it's got the year 2019 in it. I don't think it's indicative of, like, it being contemporary or anything. But yeah, I wanted to talk about Blade Runner 2019, which is something I think I mentioned in the pull list last time. So yeah, Blade Runner 2019, it's a Titan comic written by Michael Green and Mike Johnson, art by Andre Guinaldo, colours by Marco Lesco, and lettering by Jim Campbell. So, like, the thing that caught my eye was the Art Jam cover. Art Jam is somebody I follow on Twitter who's, like, famously good at doing...
Love Art Jam.
Yeah, they're fantastic covers for comics. So the cover for this one is the protagonist, Ash, wearing, like, the typically noir, like, collared coat over, like, a really cool, stylish shirt, tie, waistcoat combo, stood against a murky wall, bathed in red light, holding a smoking gun, and her silhouette doesn't quite match the frame, depicting somebody familiar from the film smoking a cigarette, and the city is bathed in this, like, blue light laid out behind her, and it's a gorgeous cover. And there's some really good variants as far as I could tell as well. There's one that caught my eye, which was by Sid Mead, which is, like, messier and a more abstracted view of, like, a wet street being patrolled by some sort of futuristic armored vehicle. It's very cool. So yeah, this book, it starts off super strong, like, with a really incredible show of graphic violence, sets the mood of the story and, like, the sensibilities of our protagonist, which I think I'm going to say up front. I don't like Ash. I don't think we're supposed to like Ash, because, like, where we've had decades of aloof, enterprising womanizer and Kay's lonely, pained romantic who's searching for meaning, Ash, at least in this issue, appears to be a sadist, toying with her prey and reveling in the power dynamic between runner and replicant. So we're introduced to her having already caught a replicant, explaining to him the value of his various parts. So his heart is worth surprisingly little, and his eyes are worth far more. it's revealed that he's killed 5 people, and as she puts it, actual people, and she gives them a choice to be delivered to a coroner who has a taste for dissecting things while they're alive, or to end his own life. She gives him that torturous choice. And the comic takes time to languish in these moments of filmic hyperrealism and hyperviolence. So there's in this instance, there's multiple panels dedicated to this act of brutality with this really interesting asymmetry where there's 4 panels in a row, and the beat before the violence occurs is in sterile blue, and then the following 4 in a row are this garish red, and each moment is caught in still without any motion lines. And what I love about this book, which I was fully expecting from it being a film property, is it's a book that's choosing not to animate its pages, and by animate I mean not using motion lines. It's really effective at communicating how busy and bustling the world is, and it accomplishes this through, I guess, lots of really transient elements. In a very Blade Runner movie sort of way, it depicts it all through smoke and rain and papers in the wind and the glow of screens, and this liberal but really pleasantly restrained use of lens flare and light bloom and all the things we've come to expect from the film visuals and the film vocabulary. And all of these are captured as still photographs with like I said, no motion in them really. It's all just snapshots of a moment. And for a moody work, it's surprisingly colourful, but these, I would say maybe atonal colours, because they're sort of disparate and fragmented. They come from the adverts strewn across the city, which is a very cyberpunk thing anyway, but while the living city beneath it is casting cool greys and cool blues. So it turns out that Ash is far too good at her job, which, I don't know, the way I read it was it speaks volumes about what the work is when this level of sadism is considered quality. And there are currently no replicants to pursue. And instead, she's given a missing persons job to complete, and that's where the story kicks in properly. And the writing is presented mostly as narration by Ash, talking to us, talking to her dead prey in that typical noir fashion. And there's lots of if you like this kind of thing, there's lots of deliberately overwrought ponderances on the shitty state of the world, and I really dig that. And this first issue's got loads of beats we've come to expect from this Blade Runner, I guess, style guide, animal motifs and fights in the rain, and the desire for exceptionalism, the fetishization of this fleeting organic natural and the opposing sanitized mechanical, and how the rest of the world fits in between those two polar opposites. And this issue mostly plays out as a procedural, which I hope it doesn't continue on with in the rest of the series. But in this one, it sort of brings us into the world and how Ash reaves her way through it to complete her job, and towards the end reveals a quirk which prevents this clean completion of her work. And honestly, I really like this. I kind of picked it up as a curio and thinking I wouldn't like it, because I obviously like Blade Runner, and I was very pleasantly surprised by Blade Runner 2049. And I didn't think that this property could, maintain that momentum, but it seems like it has. I'd recommend this, especially if you have an affection for its source material, and it really helps that the art and everything is really good and really well laid out and really thoughtful. And yeah, I dig it. I'd recommend it.
Yeah, sounds good. It is something that I did want to check out. So
yeah, same.
What I meant by the 2019 thing is these sci-fi stories of the past setting things in the future, but the future being now. So
well, it's weird because it's definitely it's not 2019, and it doesn't even feel like, I don't know. It may, yeah, I kind of get what you mean. It feels like the 2019 that was written about in the 80s.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. Yeah,
yeah, but it's weird because I like I said, I kind of just ignored the year, even though it does say it's set in Los Angeles 2019. Yeah. To me, it's just, retro cyberpunk Xerost future, whatever you want to call it, and I kind of just let that wash over me in a really good way.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's a problem. I'm just saying I think I think it's kind of cool, and I do like to point it out. I don't know why.
It's weird. I kind of wish they just wouldn't give the year. Or Blade Runner 2049 seems far enough into the future that all of that kind of stuff makes sense. Whereas I think if I think about this too hard, I don't like that it's saying it's set now kind of pulls me out of it. But I've kind of just like
the thing is
a blind eye to it.
Like, I assume it's in canon with both of the movies.
Yeah, that's the point, I think.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah. Although it doesn't feel that way. It feels very much like it's following on from either of the films. It doesn't like that. Both of those films I feel were almost in parallel, even though you can tell like by the fashions and whatever, and like the quality of the replicants and all of that kind of stuff. There must be a time span, but it didn't. And obviously with the actors aging in between. But I don't know. Those both felt trapped in a bubble, and I feel like this is trapped in that same bubble. I don't really feel any progression of time between the films or this comic.
Because I asked that because in 2049 there's a blackout that happens in between both movies, and obviously this book is set around the time of the first movie, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's cool to sort of spend some time in that zone. But also, the thing I really liked with 2049 is that it carried on the sort of chronology of the original Blade Runner film, which made a lot of predictions, some correct and some wrong, but they kept those wrong things where it's like this alternate universe. But like Pan America Airlines are still around. Atari is still like the big thing it was in the 80s and not what it is now. And I like that they carried on those elements. So I think you could do like a lot of cool things in between that space between the films.
Okay, so it's not really doing anything with the corporate advertising, like that kind of stuff. It doesn't have any mention or any sort of crossover here, and I guess that's just to do with like licensing issues or whatever. But there are a couple of hints, which I was deliberately being vague on because I didn't want to spoil anything. And also because based on the franchise, it's not entirely 100% clear how much it is a reference or how much it is a direct connection to any one of the films, but there is a very big element of this book which harkens back to one of the movies. And I don't want to say what, but yeah, I think you'll be intrigued. I think you'll like how it ties back into the franchise.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. I just wanted to mention, previous to this episode as well, I just wanted to briefly mention these two because Ben Kahn, the writer that we had on as a guest a few episodes ago, has sent me issues 5 and 6 of Griffin, Galaxy's Most Wanted, and I've read through them, and they are both absolutely awesome. Did you get a chance to read those yet, Ray? Because I did forward them on.
I haven't, no, but I get the feeling they'd be really interesting bedfellows with a book like Blade Runner.
Yeah,
with the whole with that sort of violence and that sort of futurism. Yeah,
and
I want to. I really, really did enjoy
issue 5. Issue 5's got what you wanted, some more Dow Fishboy interaction. So
fantastic. That's all I want. That's all I want from it.
You want that Dow Fishboy interaction, and that's what you're going to get. So some science guy stuff, which is cool.
Yeah,
and
that's sciencey engineering stuff.
Yeah, and these issues are brilliant. There's some fantastic artwork. There's an amazing bit where Griffin is fired out of a cannon onto a planet, and the way this is laid out on several panels with them getting ready and then being fired and then getting shot into the atmosphere of this planet, and it's just fantastic. The way that plays out, I just love that bit.
That all sounds very like Star Trek 2009. That sounds great.
Yeah, it's mad. I love it. It's bright, it's punk, it's cool, it's everything I've already said about this comic, and it just continues. Oh, and there's a bit where Griffin, as they come in and land, they punch a guy in the face with this momentum that's been built up from being fired from a cannon into the atmosphere of a planet. And there's just this brilliant, how many panels does this last? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 horizontal panels. like
nice.
at the end of issue 5, and it's beautiful. It is glorious. It is a symphony of violence, and I love it. And there's some viscera and some really big onomatopoeia that takes up the entire panel, and it's just gorgeous. It's my thing, 100%.
Very, very slight aside relating to this that I wanted to ask you is, I'm really mindful of not appearing sycophantic towards like Ben Kahn's work because we've had them on as a guest. Yeah. And like I feel like it would be wrong to like lay on any criticism quite thickly, but also to lay on any praise too thickly. But I genuinely loved Griffin. Like I was almost.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I'm not being a, you know, I'm not saying this just because we've had them on as a guest.
Oh, I know.
I really enjoy their work.
I know you're not, and like I want to make it really clear to the audience that like we're not just laying it on thick. Because of that, like I really like Griffin's one of the best things I've read in a long time. Like that level of like light and refreshing and quick and easy to read as well. Yeah, I loved it. I'll get on.
If you want to know more about that, go and listen to our interview with Ben. And yeah, because I sat down and had a chat with them, and we discussed Griffin, and yeah, it's really cool. And I've got
thanks for the good reminder because I needed that.
And I just needed to bring that up, that I had these next 2 issues in line, and they're great. So yeah.
Cool.
On from there, I believe we were going to talk about Leon's comic.
Yes.
Well, not Leon's comic, but Leon's pick.
If only. Love to be getting paid by DC to write something. But yeah, so I picked up Naomi because 2 reasons. One, I was looking at things that have slipped through the cracks this year, and I wanted to check out something that was interesting. And 2, I thought in the recent weeks, you as in Greg, have spoken about the Lois Lane comic, and I believe the Jimmy Olsen one as well. And from what I've read and heard about those, this joins that trifecta in terms of comics that give you a bit more of a window into Superman while not actually featuring Superman that much. And this one definitely sort of carries on that tradition. But like those 2 comics, it is very much about the protagonist, and Superman's presence is more of a catalyst that gets the story running.
Yeah.
So Naomi is about a girl who lives in Oregon, in a town called Port Oswego, which kind of seems like a Portland-esque analog. And one day, one of the wildest things that could ever happen to a small town, Superman and while fighting Mongol, both of them smash into the main street, have a fight for 20 seconds, and then fly off to continue the fight elsewhere. And for a small town, this is the biggest thing that's ever happened. And Naomi missed it. So you have these great pages at the beginning where they're 12 panel, and they're all sort of straight on Vox Pop style, where people are talking about their reactions. And a lot of what they're saying isn't really coherent because you're getting bits and bobs like, oh, it's so amazing, and then this happens, oh, I managed to capture 5 seconds of it, and all these things I missed it as well, or I was blah blah blah. I can't believe I missed the one important thing to happen in town. And so that starts to consume Naomi's mind because she's like, stuff like this never happens. And then the day after, she gets a message from one of her friends, and he's back. So she and at the time she's in a session with a therapist. And what we learn with this is all early on stuff, is that she there's a thing called, I believe it's Superman syndrome or Superman complex. But what it is that people who are orphans often get obsessed with Superman because he's the world's most famous orphan, but also he's like he's the orphan hero because he's special and he changes the world, and so he gets looked up to by a lot of people who are in a similar position, in the same way that Batman often gets kids looking up to him.
Only when they know he's Batman. I think Batman looks up to Superman. I think Batman has orphan syndrome.
Yeah. But like, what happens is that Superman's just there to fix some of the damage that he caused, which is a nice touch because you have characters going, he's not that cool. Like, why didn't he come and fix up the damage that he made?
Side note, though, Leon, don't tell Batman I said that Batman looks up to Superman, because then I really would be in trouble.
Well, he already knows it. Like,
yeah, he's listening on the back computer right now.
So, I mean, I can't help you. I'm not. Batman. If Batman asks me to confirm what you said, I'm telling him.
Well, yeah, he comes into your house, grabs you by the throat, and stuffs you against the wall. What did Greg say? Yeah.
I'll give him the audio, like, I'm telling him. Even if I didn't hear it properly, I'm confirming what he thinks that you said. So
yeah,
like, I'm not getting in the way of that.
He's scary, man.
But like, so Superman comes and like helps clean up and flies off, and it's really cool set of panels because you don't see Superman's face properly. Instead, you see him as people on the ground would see him, with like the sun obscuring his face a bit, and it's all very mythic. And how a 17-year-old would look up to this larger-than-life person. But what happens is that it sets off a chain of events, because there's like rumors going around through the town that that wasn't the first time something superhero level happened in the town. Like 2 decades before something happened, and that sets Naomi down a path where she gets obsessed and starts researching as far as she can, because she notices that there's not much news about the Superman coming, and she thinks that's really weird, and wonders what else slips under the cracks. So you've got that going on, and it sets off an okay type mystery to begin with, where like you're at the beginning, you're sort of wondering like what was the thing in the town, and I think I was carried along because I think so the book's written by Brian Michael Bendis and David F. Walker, and I think they're good at pulling you along, because you definitely getting drip fed at the beginning. But the key thing is the art by Jamal Campbell is like really good. Like the character design is really awesome. Like Naomi is an African American girl. She's adopted. She lives with white parents, and she's got like really cool braids. And design just she looks so contemporary, but like just so emotive is a bad word, but she seems like she has so many different elements and sides and different facial expressions and body language. It's really it's really good for making you empathize with her and for like pulling you in and drawing you in. So you do stick with it, because like I said, that main mystery, I was like, yeah, okay, we'll see what's going on there. I was only going to read this first issue to talk about it, but then I wanted to know, because they end it in a sort of cliffhangery way, and I wanted to know what the hell was going on. So I read the second issue. I bought and read the second issue, and then so it continues pulling you along. And then what happens during that issue? I'm not going to do any story spoilers, but like, is that the questions about what happened in the town sort of open up a wider story, and then you get into a mystery that connects what's going on with the town, and has really good like wrong footing in the story, where the character Naomi is saying stuff that you would say because you've seen it before, and you're like, oh, I see this, blah blah blah, like she's from Krypton as well. I'll say that because that definitely is not the thing that happens. And it's like, oh, she's an alien or whatever, and the character will say that, and then no, the mystery is way different than you think it is. It's like pat on the head. It's like, oh, you thought it was this? No, it's this. So I knowingly bought the third issue. And it's like, it's doing my head in. I would have read, I think there's 6 out at the moment. I would have read them all if I had the time. And I probably, after this, will read the rest, which really annoys me because I don't want to keep up to date with a contemporary superhero comic. But it's not really a superhero comic, but I hope it's a limited run because it's funny. They got me with a really like, meh, this is whatever. Find out what's going on in this town that I don't really care about. And now it's like, oh, what's going on with all these characters? And like, why is everyone so shady? And are these people who they say they are? And blah, blah, blah. And it's just pulling you in, like you're getting deeper in the web. And it worked on me. It definitely worked on me. And it made me think, because this is one of the Wonder Comics imprint, which is like Brian Michael Bendis world, kind of. In terms of DC, I believe it's all focused on young heroes. So it's Young Justice, Wonder Twins, Naomi, and Dial H for Hero. And if they're doing like smart things with those books as they are doing with this, then I would be tempted to take a peek, because it's a very like initially simple premise. And it does get like wild, but not. It doesn't like kick me out of the wildness. Instead, it draws me in more, and it's like, that's annoying. I want to like keep up with this, but like beyond that, also does really well is its use of not really splash pages, more like widescreen panels is how I'm going to put it, because there's a lot of panels that work horizontally, and not just in that sort of way where it's like, okay, this is like an impact page or something like that, but it's usually done quite artfully to pull together a lot of different elements, and like the panel construction really feeds into it being like a wide panel. I read it digitally, so I don't know exactly where the seams were, or if how it's presented physically. But I found it to be like really effective, and it made certain moments really stand out. Like there's a scene. There's a page really early on in issue 1, which depicts Superman and Mongol entering the town, and it's done in a really cool way where you have that widescreen panel, and it's the typical thing you see a lot where it's one image, but the characters are moving around in the image to show like the different steps they went through. But just the simple inclusion of like 2 white lines sort of splitting it into 3 panels, but not really. It reads really really dynamically, and it's it just makes it all feeds in to it pulling you on and working the trick that it worked on me. So it's quite nice to have like focus on a character who is adjacent to the superhero stuff, but be like a person on the ground. And like I said, this isn't new stuff, and loads of comics have been doing it forever. But like, isn't it like, is it GCPD and Gotham Knights or whatever, which are like Batman books that feature no Batman?
That's GCPD comic.
Yeah, that's it. And like, I read like, I think 2 trades worth of GCPD back in the day, and I really like the feel and the concept of it, because I think that is such an applicable scenario to do with this, and it allows you, or like it facilitates spending time with humans in a world with metahumans and like gods, basically. Because a lot of the time we never really, apart from being vehicles to be saved, we never really, not never really, but we seldom spend time with normies on the ground getting booked up into these big, or being on the sidelines of these big like universe altering events. And I think it's really good to do that because you get to have your cake and eat it by having like cool mind-bendy sci-fi superhero stuff, but you also get to spend time with these people and get in their head a bit. I mean, this character literally has a therapist which facilitates them being able to speak out their feelings. So I guess it's a little bit of a cheat, but it's really cool. And already I'm like invested in just finding out what the hell is the deal with all of this. But I would recommend it. I think there are 7 issues or something. I think the first issue came out in January and there was a gap between the next coming out. But yeah, that is Naomi on DC's Wonder Comics. It's written by Brian Michael Bendis and David F. Walker. The art, including the cover, is done by Jamal Campbell. The letterer was Wes Abbott. And I definitely recommend it.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. Like, how did that slip past us the first time, man?
I don't think it did. We actually talked about the preview for this. I distinctly remember talking about that scene in the city where where Superman and Mongol are fighting. It just wasn't out at the time, and then it definitely slipped through our net when it came out. But we definitely talked about the preview.
Yeah. Moving on from there, actually going to finish off with Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen. So Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen #1. So they've relaunched it, and it's going to be a 12-part series, and it is written by Matt Fraction. And it is great. So we'll get you the full list of comics full list of credits for this comic first of all, and get my words out correctly. So this is Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen, which, according to the comic, DC Comics Super Duper proudly presents. It is written by Matt Fraction. Steve Lieber is the artist. Nathan Fairburn on colours. Clayton Cowles letters. The cover is by Lieber and Fairburn, and Ben Oliver did a variant cover for it. And yeah, it's just it's gorgeous, man. Like, the artwork in here is fantastic. Like, there's some really, really cool scenes, some great action scenes. Like, the character design in here is great. The colours just leaps off the page. It just pops with these like dark lines and bright colours, and it's just very, very, very jovial. It has this very, very kind of like comedic tone throughout the whole thing, even though there's a darker something underlying it all that I haven't quite gotten to yet in reading this comic at least twice. Something's going on, and over the next 12 issues I will be able to piece that together. And it's something that goes back to seemingly goes back to the founding of Metropolis. Because, so Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen focuses on Jimmy Olsen, who is he's kind of like he works for the Daily Planet, and the classic formula is he'll get himself into a spot of bother, but he'll have spectacular adventures, and Superman will turn up and bail him out, or Superman will turn up and help him or get involved and help him uncover something, or get to the bottom of something, or save his life. And the classic formula is like almost like an anthology, where they used to, in like the early days of the Jimmy Olsen book, they used to have 2 or 3, like 3 stories per book. So it'd be like 3 separate Jimmy Olsen stories. 3 short stories per comic. Now, this is set up like an anthology, except the stories are interlinked. And the first story we get is Joachim Olsen in It's the Falls That'll Kill Ya, which is about the founding of Metropolis and how Joachim Olsen tried to stake his claim to some land and then was killed. And this all seems to be something that then leads into the next part, which is Jimmy Olsen doing a dive from space as part of some kind of experiment that Metamorpho's involved in, and he transforms into some giant turtle meteor thing halfway down, which is another hallmark of Jimmy Olsen comics, that they worked in a transformation. Because Jimmy Olsen usually, you know, like sometimes he gets a power or he transforms or something like that. And Superman has to stop this thing from doing damage. But he destroys a statue, the monarch of Metropolis, which is something that Lex Luthor had just spent an awful lot of money on rebuilding or something like that. And after that, the next little part is Jimmy Olsen as a liability and getting sent to live elsewhere by the newspaper, by the Daily Planet. Daily Planet? Yeah. Because they just don't want him, like, around anymore, kind of thing. But, I mean, they want to keep him on the Daily Planet payroll because he brings in readers with his stories. But, in fact, he's the only thing that makes money for them. But at the same time, he's a liability because he, you know, like, it costs so much to insure the guy. So they send him to live elsewhere, and by the looks of things, he ends up in Gotham, and that's where the book ends. And it starts to take a slightly darker turn. But yeah, it's just this kind of like bounce from short story to short story, but they're all interconnected, and it all kind of, there's something going on here that goes back to the founding of Metropolis, and it's to do with Jimmy Olsen, and I think it has a little bit to do with Lex Luthor as well. And I haven't quite worked out what the whole thing, like, what it's all getting at, but it's, you know, like, quite yet. I mean, it's all going to come together in later issues, but it's hilarious. It's really well put together. The action scenes are fantastic. There's some really good dynamic artwork in here. It's colourful. It's punchy. It's just a really good bit of just, like, pure comics. And it is in the true spirit of, like, what I understand Jimmy Olsen comics to be from, you know, having read some Jimmy Olsen stuff way back when. I mean, like, my experience with Jimmy Olsen is with the Jack Kirby New Gods stuff, because the New Gods were born from the Jimmy Olsen books. So Jack Kirby went to DC in 1970, I believe, and he wanted to be put on the Jimmy Olsen book. And that, like, through the Jimmy Olsen book is where we got things like the Fourth World, the New Gods, all that stuff. And that's where all of that kind of started. And the Newsboy Legion actually brought those back as well through the Jimmy Olsen's book. And it's just that kind of like that classic comic booky type feel, you know, that classic comic wackiness about it, and it's just great for that. And I fully recommend it actually, because I actually think it's really funny, and it's a really good bit of escapism. And it's just really punchy and bright and good. I mean, I know there's something sinister going on underneath it all, but at the same time, it's still kind of funny. It's hilarious. And I think that's Matt Fraction's influence as well. Because from what I understand about Matt Fraction, he's good at comedy, right? He's got a good head for comedy. Would you agree, Ray?
Yeah, for sure. Like, he's one of the funniest dudes in comics, of like from
exactly
Sex Criminals and that Spider-Man run that he did.
Yeah, he's great. And this Jimmy Olsen run is like testament to that, I'm sure. Yeah, it's just comedic fun content, and it's great. And these escapades with Jimmy Olsen, and how he's a liability because he has to be rescued by Superman so often and does so much damage. But at the same time, his stories are the only thing keeping the Daily Planet alive. Which is really cool, yeah. I like it. yeah, and that is the end. That is the end of my list, and I think that's the end of it. Like, close out on Jimmy Olsen. So, has anyone got anything else they'd like to mention quickly? Is everybody done?
Oh yeah, no, I've said my piece.
Leon, you done? I guess
I
so.
am.
I guess so. So I just quickly mentioned very briefly that I read Archie versus Predator #1, and that is a good fun bit of self-aware Archie horror type stuff. Archie comics. It's very self-aware, it's very meta, and it's fun. And if you want, you want to have a laugh, pick that up. And off the back of that, because I was like doing some Googling and some digging, and I found out that they did an Archie versus Sharknado, which was just a one-shot comic, but I'm going to have to track that down because that sounds brilliant. Like with these Archie crossover books that I seem to be kind of like saddling myself with at the moment. But yeah, it was great fun. I also picked up the history of the Marvel Universe, which was a really well put together look at the Marvel prehistory, the beginnings of the Marvel Universe and onwards, and it's quite interesting to see it all laid out in one timeline, and it's just basically a bunch of fantastic art washing through the book as we sort of like go from point to point across the entire Marvel timeline as narrated by Galactus at the end of time. So the comic starts at the end of time, and this is going to take us all the way up to the end of time over its tenure, this comic. And Galactus is going to narrate the lot. And it's really interesting and really cool because it's like right up Greg's Cosmic Comic Alley. It's that kind of stuff I like. So yeah, get me some of that. And it's worth reading. So I guess we shall move on to the question, which I came up with, and I was going to ask Ray and Leon to answer this one. Leon, did you come up with any answers to it? So what I asked you to do was come up with a 2-sentence horror story centered around comics, or it had to be comics adjacent?
Yes.
Yes, okay. And Ray, did you come up with anything?
I came up with one that might have already been foreshadowed by Leon's commentary on Naomi and how he was like tortured into buying the follow-ups to that first issue. So yeah, I wrote one.
Tortured? Really?
Sounded like it.
So, yeah, so who wants to go first? And then I'll be the judge of who wrote the best one.
I mean, I sort of didn't hew that close to 2 sentences, but I can run with the one about Leon if you want.
Yeah,
so
go with the one about Leon. Yep.
So like, Leon, the Oathbreaker, the disgraced, the heretic, the sole exile from the trade paperback clan, runs his fingers up and down the thin, staple spine of a single issue, the first issue of a new run. I couldn't resist. I just couldn't resist. Look at this cover. Look at the neon blue and pink hues. It'll be worth it. It'll be gratifying. It has to be. It's only a limited run. It's only six-ish. He stops mid-sentence, noticing a subtle embossed statement at the foot of the cover, part of a new exciting, multi-threaded, decade-spanning crossover event.
Yes. I mean, that's not horror for me. That's like something, that's like my life. But
I mean, it's a personal horror. How does that make you feel, Leon?
That's Leon's personal horror. Leon?
I'm not a fan.
So, Leon, have you got one?
Yes, though I haven't written it down. But mine goes, as you sit in your seat, ready to watch your favourite comic book be adapted into a film, finally, you lean back, the whole screen is empty. You sigh, a sigh of relief. The screen comes on. The words directed by Zack Snyder come on the screen.
Can I read mine next? Because that's way.
That's not. That's just truth.
We're just out to hurt Greg now.
That has happened.
Okay, the reason I love this is because mine is basically the same thing that I wrote about you, Greg.
Yeah.
So, part of an extremely limited group of people to see an early preview of the secretive new TMNT/Ghostbusters/Usagi Yojimbo live-action movie, Greg settles into his seat. He daydreams of how he'll be the first to confirm to the world that, as everyone suspected, Stan Sakai himself was responsible for the movie, but his reverie was broken by the words appearing on screen, "Strap in, you're about to experience the ultimate Michael Bay set piece." Oh. As the megaton bomb hidden beneath him rends the theatre apart, Greg's scream contributes nothing to the cacophony of bizarre and painful nonsense unfolding around him.
That's gonna win.
Yeah. Oh.
And for the sake of fairness, I wrote a short one for myself. Rahul opens a beautiful, cute, pastel-hued cover to reveal a title page stating, lengthy and necessary written word prologue.
Yeah, I mean, like, who shall I say? I mean, I don't know who the winner is there. They're all good.
I think that Rahul Greg one wins.
You think that one's the winner, the Michael Bay one? Yeah, that for me that is the most horrifying. That is my personal hell. But the one that I enjoyed the most, the one that I thought was probably the most like the one that I liked the most was the one about Leon buying single issues.
only because it seems to have come true twice this week. With between Naomi and House of M.
I mean, Leon's Zack Snyder one. That's just something that's actually happened.
It is hurtful.
Yeah, and the Michael Bay ones happened as well because I went to watch Transformers at the cinema.
I mean, that was cherry picked to like prey on your fears. So
yeah. I mean, like, let me have a go at this actually because I think I've got one. So, you get to your local comic shop on NCBD, eager to check out a new series that you've been looking forward to. You've been keeping an eye on this. You've been reading previews. You don't know an awful lot about it. In fact, the cover hadn't even been announced yet. All you know is that it is so real, and you just know that it revels in realism, and it is a visceral story. You run in and you grab the sealed copy from the shelf and take it up to the counter to pay for it with your other pile of comics. The book itself is sealed. It's in a black plastic. You can't see the cover. You can't see what's inside. You just know that you want it because it's this new series that's been teased, that's gone viral. Like everybody's been talking about it. You get to your local comic shop and you peel open the black plastic, and the cover of the comic is blank and white. And you turn to the next page, and on the next page you see yourself getting into the shower in the morning, and it details panel by panel you getting ready in great realism, and these are things that have happened just this day. This is like, but this was this morning, what's going on? So you start flipping through the comic even more, and it leads up to your journey to the comic shop, you buying the comic, you sitting down in the coffee shop, and you get to the final page. And the final page is from kind of like third or fourth person perspective, someone standing behind somebody else. And you see a guy, the coffee shop is now empty, and you see a guy with a hatchet standing behind you. And you look up, and there's a dude with a hatchet in your face, ready to take your face.
The scariest part about that is having to see myself get into a shower. I don't want to see that. That's not a 2-sentence horror story, Craig. That's like the seed of a really good idea that you should turn into a comic.
I was going to say, what are these run-off sentences? I thought Rahul's are better now.
I know. That wasn't 2 sentences. That breaks the rules. But I just, like, because I hadn't come up with anything prior to the show, I just wanted to have a go at that now. But yeah, I mean, because my whole thing was I was going to judge the winner, and I picked a winner. Like, Rahul's story about Leon one's for me.
Here's a good premise.
Yeah. So yeah, Rahul takes that competition. I think that's Rahul's. So you can pat yourself on the back and you get like an AC point. A meaningless trinket. So yeah, let's move on to the pull list. So I've this is my picks for the 31st of the 7th, which is this NCBD, which is when this podcast goes live, which incidentally happens to be my birthday. So the things that I've picked here, we've got Death's Head #1, which is the revival of a Marvel character that had its beginnings in the G1 Transformers comics. And I'm going to read you the blurb for this now. So Death's Head #1, rising stars Teenie Howard, who has been working on the Thanos book, which is really good, and Kei Zama take on Marvel UK's hottest character, Death's Head, in a new miniseries. When a job goes wrong, intergalactic mech merc Death's Head wakes up half assembled at a punk show. And if the crowd full of deodorant eschewing youths wasn't enough, the Young Avengers show up. Well, half of them anyway. Hulkling and Wiccan face down the best freelance peacekeeping agent in the universe. So, does that sound like something I'd enjoy? I think that sounds like something I'd enjoy.
Yeah, that's right up your alley.
Yeah. So that's Tinny Howard writing, K-Zama artist, Philippe Sobrero on colours, Nick Roche as a cover artist, and yeah, it just sounds cool. And like my experience with Death's Head as a character goes back to the fact that I had this old Marvel Transformers annual like years and years ago as a kid, and I used to read it like a lot, and it had Death's Head in it like as a character. He just appeared in there in one of the stories that were printed in this annual. It was like one of those old hardback annuals that you used to be able to get. I think you still can get them, but I don't see them that often anymore. It's the kind of thing you usually see around Christmas. But yeah, I was really into it. It was cool. You used to be able to like write your name in the front of them and things. The next one on my list was something called Mana Black, which is on Dark Horse Comics. I will get the words out. And that one is by the creator of Harrow County. It's got Cullen Bunn on it, so that's my draw because it's it's associated with the guy that wrote Harrow County, which is enough for me. So from the creators of Harrow County and The Sixth Gun comes this gothic horror fantasy about a family of sorcerers in crisis. Roman Black is the moribund patriarch of a family of powerful sorcerers. As his wicked and corrupt children fight over who will take the reins of Mana Black and become representative of the black arts, Roman adopts a young mage whom he gifts his powers to with the hope that someone good will take his place against the evil forces out to bring down his family and legacy. And that is written by Brian Hurt and Cullen Bunn, and we've got Tyler Crook doing the art. And yeah, that's Tyler Crook and Cullen Bunn, so that's the Harrow County guys. So I am like fully invested in that. In like I want to read that because that sounds really cool. And following from that, we've got Powers of X #1, which we've talked about already. That's going to be the thing that intertwines with House of X, and that is going to be really cool. That's like sort of like the next part of this new X-Men Genesis that we've talked about on the show. And also Ice Cream Man #13, which I think I was excited for when I read the title of it in the back of the previous Ice Cream Man comic. It's called Palindromes. So it's a new story arc, and the title is Palindromes, and the only thing on the blurb is, what if you could have it both ways? And like that, like I'm hoping, like I have this theory that they're going to do something real interesting that you can read the comic from both directions.
Yeah, I like when they do this cool concept stuff, like with the Neapolitan one.
Yeah,
they have good ideas with that.
Yeah, so I'm hoping they go down that route and they do some cool concept thing with it where you can read it from two different directions. Because the cover that I'm looking at has the Ice Cream Man himself standing there holding an arrow pointing to like the where you would open the page if you were to open it the usual way from right to left. And I'm hoping that you can turn it over and it goes the other way, because when I looked at the preview for it, I think in the back of Ice Cream Man 12, it had the art from two different directions. So, yeah, I'm excited for this. I'm always excited for new Ice Cream Man, but I'm especially excited for this. And Ray, where are you for the 31st?
I've only got a couple of picks, but one really big one is Paper Girls #30, which will be a double-sized final issue. So it'll be high time for me to actually catch up on, I think, the dozen, maybe 24 issues that I've not read up on and catch up in time for this. And the cover for this looks lovely with like yellow background and pink-hued girls on their bicycle. It's very cool. I think I'll be picking this up on paper, which I haven't done for a while for paper covers.
Brian K. Vaughan is shaking his damn head. How did you get so behind?
I bought every single one digitally. I just haven't got round to them. And then, as you pointed out, Ice Cream Man, and there's also Life is Strange #7, and Test #2 is coming out on July 31st.
Oh yes, Test #2. I forgot about that. Mm-hmm. I did have that. Like, yeah. Damn it! Yeah, I forgot to mention that. But yeah, Test #2 is out as well, which is going to be cool. We actually we got a preview of Test #1 at a couple of episodes ago, so you should check that out. But yeah, Test #2 will be good. I just wanted to point out as well that while we're doing like release schedule stuff, because we talked about chapters 5 and 6 of Griffin. So chapter 5 came out on the July 17th, and chapter 6 is out on August 7th. So that'll be the following week's comics, which are what I'm about to start talking about now. So for August 7th, I've got Lois Lane #2, House of X #2, which is, again, the continuation of the New Mutant Genesis, the new X-Men stuff. Lois Lane #2 following on from Lois Lane #1, which I talked about on the previous episode, which is like this really good kind of detective-y tale. And this other thing that I looked at called Coffin Bound #1, which is an image book. The blurb for this: cars, guns, and entropy. Chased by an unstoppable killer, Izzy Tyburn has decided that if the world won't have her in it, it can have nothing of her at all. She's retreading her life, leaving nothing but burned rubber, ash, and the sun-scorched bones of those who get in her way. Join writer Dan Watters and artist Danny and colorist Brad Simpson on a road trip through a blood-spattered life. And it's just, it just sounds like a really cool kind of like assassin story slash like kind of like Bonnie and like just live dangerously type thing, which I'm kind of interested in. The cover grabs me because it's the what I assume is the main character, Izzy Tyburn, sitting with her back leaning against the car with a cigarette and a bunch of bones underneath it. She's got a gun in her hand. The title itself, Coffin Bound, is text squished into the shape of a coffin. And it just sounds really cool. Like just this kind of like road trip to hell type thing, and I'm all for it. It looks really cool as well. And Ray, where are you for the 7th of August even, sorry?
Yeah, I've only got 2 for that week. Giant Days #53, which I believe is going to be the end of an arc. And then Die, as in DIE, the one by Kieran Gillen, at #6, which is the start of a new arc.
Yeah, so that's it. That is the end of the pull list, and that has been Ace Comicals #68. So you can find us at www.acecomicals.com, where you can find links to all our various social media and places that you can listen to us. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Castro, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. We are on Twitter under Ace Comicals. We're under Facebook under Ace Comicals. You can find us on Instagram under Ace Comicals. You can find me on Twitter under @Batto, that's BATTOU. If you wish to ask us a question or get involved in the conversation, you can DM us on Twitter. You can @ us on Twitter, talk about comics that you like, ask us about comics, things that you might want us to read for the show. Or you can get in touch via the email address, which is acecomicals@gmail.com. Ray, where can we find you?
On Twitter @Monkeh, so that's @MOONKEH.
And Leon, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter @Leon Everett.
So that has been Ace Comicals #68. That is Ace Comicals, over and out.